I stood in my tiny kitchen, frosting the birthday cake I had baked for myself, when Brandon walked in with Stephanie and her mother Diane. I smiled, hoping for even a small acknowledgement. Instead, Brandon handed Diane a check for $200,000, my life savings amount, the money I had secretly lent him 6 months ago for his business. Diane smirked at me. Brandon turned and said the words that shattered everything. "Mom, you deserve nothing but my scraps. You're a loser." The cake knife slipped from my fingers and clattered against the counter. I stood there, frozen, watching my only son hand over a check to a woman who had never worked a day she did not want to, while I wore shoes with holes in the soles. "Brandon," I whispered, my voice barely audible, "that money was for your business. You said you were starting a consulting firm." He did not even look at me. Stephanie, his wife of 3 years, stepped forward with that particular smile she saved for moments when she wanted to cut deep. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled. Her designer dress probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Harriet, you really need to understand that Brandon has priorities now. Real priorities. Not your constant need for validation." Diane laughed, a sound like glass breaking. She was 58 but spent a fortune looking 40. Her jewelry alone could have fed me for a year. Brandon finally understands who his real family is. People who can actually contribute something meaningful to his life. I felt my legs trembling. This was not how I imagined my 65th birthday. I had pictured maybe a card, perhaps dinner somewhere modest. I had baked this cake myself because I could not afford a bakery anymore. Not after giving Brandon everything I had. Let me tell you how I got here. 35 years ago, I was someone different. I was Harriet Chen. No, wait, that is wrong. I was Harriet Sullivan, a talented architectural illustrator fresh out of college. I had a portfolio that made professors weep and job offers from 3 major firms. Then I met Frank, my husband. He was kind, decent, worked as a machinist. We married young, had Brandon within a year. When Brandon was 5, Frank got sick. The diagnosis came like a thunderclap: early onset Parkinson's disease. The doctors said he had maybe 15 years if we were lucky. We got 10 years of watching the man I loved lose control of his body piece by piece. 10 years of mounting medical bills that swallowed our savings, then our house, then everything we owned. I gave up my career. I had to. Someone needed to care for Frank, and someone needed to work. I took 3 jobs. I cleaned houses in the morning, worked data entry in the afternoon, waited tables at night. Brandon was a good kid back then. He helped where he could. He understood we were surviving, not living. After Frank died, I was 47 years old with nothing. No career, no house, no savings. Just Brandon and the determination to give him what I never had: opportunity. I worked myself to exhaustion putting him through college. Every penny I earned went to his tuition, his books, his apartment near campus. I lived in this rental house, 800 square feet of peeling paint and ancient appliances. When Frank's parents died, they left me a small inheritance: $60,000. I saved it like a miser, added to it whenever I could. Over 15 years, I turned it into $200,000 through careful budgeting and working overtime whenever possible. It was supposed to be my retirement, my security. Then 6 months ago, Brandon came to me crying. Real tears, I thought. He said he had a chance to start his own business consulting firm. He had clients lined up, a business plan, everything. He just needed capital. $200,000. He promised he would pay me back within 2 years. He promised this was his big break. I gave him everything, every single dollar. Now, standing in my kitchen on my birthday, I watched him give that money to Diane. I do not understand. I said, my voice stronger now. You told me this was for your business. Brandon finally turned to face me. My son, 35 years old, wearing a suit that probably cost $3,000. When did he become this person? Mom, I am repaying Diane for investing in my future. She has been more of a mother to me in 3 years than you were in 35. The words hit like physical blows. Stephanie moved closer to Brandon, wrapping her arm around his waist. Harriet, Brandon and I have been working with a therapist. We have learned that your constant sacrifice narrative is actually a form of emotional manipulation. You guilt him with everything you gave up. That is toxic. Toxic. The word came out as a gasp. I worked 3 jobs to put him through college. See, Stephanie gestured at me like I was evidence in a trial. Right there. That is what we are talking about. You keep score. Real mothers do not keep score. Diane stepped forward, her perfume overwhelming in my small kitchen. Brandon has finally learned that family is not about blood. It is about who elevates you. Look at you, Harriet. Look at this house. Look at your life. You have nothing to offer him. We, on the other hand, can open doors. I introduced Brandon to investors. I helped him understand what real success looks like. Brandon nodded. Mom, you have been holding me back my whole life. Your poverty mindset, your small dreams. Stephanie helped me see that. Diane helped me see that. You deserve nothing but my scraps, because scraps are all you have ever understood. They left, just like that. No happy birthday. No acknowledgement that I existed beyond being someone to crush. I heard Brandon's expensive car start in the driveway. I heard them drive away. I sat at my kitchen table, looking at the cake with its 65 candles waiting to be lit. Then I noticed something on the counter. An envelope. It must have fallen from Diana's purse. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were documents, legal papers, loan agreements. I read through them, my heart pounding harder with each page. The business Brandon told me about did not exist. The $200,000 I gave him had not gone to any consulting firm. Instead, the papers showed that Brandon and Stephanie had purchased a luxury vacation home in Lake Tahoe. The property was in Diane's name. My $200,000 had been the final payment. But that was not the worst part. Clipped to the loan documents were printed text messages. Conversations between Stephanie and Diane. My vision blurred as I read them. Stephanie. The doormat actually gave him everything. $200,000. I cannot believe how easy it was. Diane. Brandon was resistant at first, but I convinced him his mother was toxic. People like Harriet are leeches. They give so they can control. Stephanie. Once we get the rest of her inheritance money, we will cut her off completely. Brandon agrees his mom has nothing left to offer. Diane. Has she mentioned anything about life insurance policies or hidden savings? Stephanie. Not yet. But I will keep pushing Brandon to ask. There has to be more somewhere. I sat there until the candles on my cake melted into the frosting. I sat there until the sun set. I sat there until I became someone new. At dawn, I made the first phone call. My hands still trembled, but my voice was steady. Patricia Morgan's office. The receptionist sounded crisp and professional. This is Harriet Sullivan. I need to speak with Patricia. Tell her it is her college roommate. Tell her it is important. 20 years. 20 years since I last spoke to Patricia. We had been inseparable at university, both studying architecture, both dreaming of changing skylines. Then life happened. I married Frank. Patricia moved to Colorado and built an empire in real estate development. She sent Christmas cards for years. She called. She tried. I stopped responding. too ashamed of how far I had fallen, too embarrassed to let her see what I had become. Harriet. Patricia's voice came through the phone like a lifeline. My God, Harriet, I have been trying to reach you for years. I know. I am sorry. Patricia, I need help. I need to disappear. Tell me everything. I did. Every word, every betrayal, every document I had found. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, the silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Come to Colorado, today, right now. I will wire you money for a plane ticket. I cannot accept your charity. Harriet, shut up and listen. This is not charity. I have something to tell you, something I have been trying to tell you for 15 years. Just get here, please. The second call went to my landlord. I am giving 30 days' notice. I will be out by the end of the week. You have been a good tenant, Harriet. Quiet, always paid on time. Can I ask where you are going? Somewhere new. The third call was to a lawyer. He listened to my story, looked at the documents I scanned and emailed. His verdict was crushing. Mrs. Sullivan, I am sorry. You gave your son that money voluntarily. There is no fraud charge if he lied about what he would use it for. This is a civil matter. You could sue him, but lawsuits cost money and take years. Given your financial situation and his, you would likely spend more than you would recover. I called the police anyway. They were kind but firm. Mom, this sounds like a family dispute over money. We cannot help unless there is proof of criminal fraud. You willingly gave him the funds. That is a gift in the eyes of the law. Over the next 2 weeks, I dismantled the life I had built. I sold my furniture to a second-hand store for $300. I sold my few pieces of jewelry, including my wedding ring, for another $200. I kept exactly 1 suitcase of clothing and Frank's watch, the only thing I had left of him. Brandon called on Tuesday. I let it go to voicemail. Hey, Mom, listen. I have been thinking. Tax season is coming up and I am going to owe a lot this year because of, business stuff. I was wondering if you had maybe 5 or 10,000 you could loan me, just temporarily. Let me know. I saved the voicemail. Evidence of character, if nothing else. I cleaned my apartment until it shone. I wanted to leave it better than I found it. On my last day, I wrote a letter. Short, direct, Brandon. I know about the vacation home. I know about the texts. I know you plan to take more from me. I am leaving. Do not look for me. You chose your family. Now I will choose mine. Your mother. I left the letter on the kitchen counter along with copies of the documents I had found. Let him know that I knew. Let him live with that. The bus to Colorado took 17 hours. I sat by the window and watched America roll past. I thought about choices. I thought about Frank, how he used to say that our character is revealed not in our successes but in how we treat people who can do nothing for us. Brandon had revealed his character. Now it was time to reveal mine. Patricia met me at the Denver bus station. She was 67 now, her hair silver, her face lined with laugh lines. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, but moved with the confidence of someone who had conquered her world. She hugged me. I broke. Right there in the bus station, I sobbed into my old friend's shoulder like I had not cried since Frank died. Let it out, she whispered. Let it all out. Then we rebuild. We drove to her home, a beautiful ranch house in the foothills. She made tea. We sat in her kitchen, so different from mine, full of light and space and the smell of something baking. Harriet, she said carefully. Before we go any further, I need to tell you something. Something I have been trying to tell you for 15 years. She pulled out a folder. Inside were documents, official letters, bank statements. Do you remember the summer after our junior year? You did that internship with Morrison Design Firm. I nodded. It had been a small firm, just 3 people, doing boutique architectural illustrations for high-end clients. I had created a series of drawings for them, watercolor and ink illustrations of buildings that made architecture feel alive and warm. I was proud of that work. Morrison Design kept using your illustrations. They became their signature style. When the firm expanded and went national, your work went with them. Harriet, they have been trying to find you for years. They owe you royalties, residuals. Your illustrations have been licensed hundreds of times. She pushed a bank statement across the table. I looked at the number, then looked again. That cannot be right. $1,200,000 in an escrow account with your name on it. Morrison tried to track you down, but you moved after Frank got sick. You moved again after he died. They contacted me 5 years ago because they remembered we were friends. I have been trying to tell you. You stopped returning my calls. I could not speak, could not breathe. Harriet, you are not poor. You have never been poor. You just did not know it. And now you do. 3 years vanished like morning fog burning off the mountains. I stood in my garden, dirt under my fingernails, the Colorado sun warm on my face. The tomato plants were thriving this year, heavy with fruit. Gerald would be pleased. He had been insistent that I was planting them too close together, but I had proved him wrong. The satisfaction of that small victory made me smile. Gerald, my husband of 2 years, we married quietly in this same garden, just Patricia and a handful of friends as witnesses. He was 68, a widower, a contractor who specialized in sustainable building. We met when Patricia hired his company for one of our projects. He had kind eyes and hands that knew how to build things that lasted. Our house rose behind me, 4,000 square feet of custom-designed beauty on 15 acres outside Denver. I had designed every inch of it myself. The open floor plan that caught the morning light. The library with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. The studio where I worked, north-facing light, perfect for drawing. I designed this house the way I had once dreamed of designing buildings. With love, with attention to detail, with the knowledge that a home should shelter not just bodies but souls. The first year after I arrived in Colorado passed in a blur of paperwork and decisions. Patricia helped me claim the residuals from Morrison Design. The money sat in my account like a rebuke to every sacrifice I had made, thinking I had no choice. I could have helped Frank and myself. I could have kept my career. I just had not known. But Patricia was firm. No regrets. You made the choices you made with the information you had. Now you make new choices. I enrolled in an online master's program in architectural design. At 65, I became a student again. It was glorious. Every assignment felt like permission to dream. Every class reconnected me with the woman I had been before life demanded she disappear. Patricia hired me as a consultant for her real estate firm. I need someone who understands that beautiful does not have to mean expensive, that good design is not a luxury, it is a right. Together, we started something new, a division of her company focused exclusively on affordable housing redesign. We took buildings intended for low-income residents and made them spectacular. We proved that people living on limited means deserved beauty, deserved light, deserved spaces that elevated their lives instead of merely containing them. Our first project was a 60-unit apartment building for seniors in downtown Denver. The original plans were brutal: concrete boxes, narrow hallways, minimal windows. We transformed it. Communal gardens on every floor, wide corridors filled with natural light, units designed for aging bodies but young spirits. We brought in local artists to create murals. We built a community kitchen where residents could cook together. The building won a national award. Architectural Digest featured it in a 12-page spread. The article called me a visionary returning to the field after decades away, bringing hard-won wisdom about what truly matters in design. More projects followed. A community center in Colorado Springs, low-income family housing in Boulder, a veterans' residence in Fort Collins. Each one became a statement. Dignity is not reserved for those who can afford it. I volunteered on weekends, teaching art classes at senior centers. I watched women my age, women who thought their creative lives were over, pick up paintbrushes and discover they still had something to say. I understood them. I was them. In 3 years, I did not contact Brandon once. I changed my phone number. I stayed off social media. Patricia asked once if I wanted to know how he was doing. I said no. Some doors, once closed, are meant to stay that way. It was a Tuesday in October when everything changed. The autumn air was crisp, the aspens turning gold on the mountainsides. I was in my front garden, planting bulbs for spring. Tulips. I loved tulips because they required you to plan for hope. You buried them in cold ground and trusted that warmth would come. I heard the vehicle slow on the road. We lived on a private lane, not much traffic. I looked up. A delivery van. White, battered, the logo of a national package service on its side. It crawled past my property. The driver's head turned, staring at my house. The van stopped, sat there, idling. Then the driver's door opened. A man got out, thin, too thin, wearing the brown uniform of a delivery driver. He walked to the edge of my property line, squinting at the house, at the garden, at me. I stood, brushing dirt from my jeans. The sun was behind me. Maybe he could not see me clearly. I started to walk toward the gate to ask if he needed directions. Then he took 3 steps closer and I saw his face. Brandon, my son, my boy. Except he was not a boy anymore. He was 38 years old and he looked 50. Gaunt, exhausted, lines carved deep around his mouth. His hair, which he had always kept perfectly styled, was unkempt. His uniform hung on him like he had recently lost weight. We stared at each other across the divide of my garden gate. I watched recognition dawn on his face. His eyes went wide, his mouth opened. No sound came out. I stood there, dirt on my clothes, my hair silver now and cut short, my face tan from working outside. I wore no makeup. I did not need it anymore. I looked younger than I had 3 years ago. Happiness does that. Brandon's face went white. He stammered something. I could not hear what. Then a car pulled into my driveway. A sleek, black sedan. Patricia got out, followed by 3 people with cameras and sound equipment. "Harriet," Patricia called out cheerfully. "The documentary crew is here. Are you ready?" The crew. Right. We had agreed to let a television network film a documentary about our company, about the philosophy behind designing affordable housing with dignity. The producer wanted to interview me about my rags to riches journey, as she called it. I had been reluctant, but Patricia convinced me. "Your story will inspire people." The producer, a woman named Jessica in her 40s, walked over with her camera operator. "Mrs. Sullivan, we are so excited. This location is perfect. The house, the garden, everything. It is exactly the image we want. Success built on substance, not flash." She noticed Brandon standing at the gate, staring. "Oh, is this a friend of yours? Should we include him in the background shots?" I looked at my son, at this man who had called me a loser, who had taken everything I had and given it to someone else, who had planned to take more. I looked at him and felt nothing but a distant sadness, the kind you feel for a stranger whose life went wrong. "No," I said calmly. "Just someone making a delivery." Brandon's phone slipped from his hand. It hit the pavement and the screen shattered. The sound of it breaking echoed in the quiet mountain air. He bent down slowly, picked up the pieces, and stood there holding them. The camera operator was already filming, capturing the beautiful setting, the mountains in the background, my house rising proud and strong. Brandon stumbled backward. He got into his van. He sat there for a long moment. Then he drove away. The interview lasted 2 hours. I talked about Frank, about caregiving, about losing myself and finding myself again. I talked about architecture as an expression of values, about how design choices are moral choices. I talked about second chances and what it means to rebuild. I did not mention Brandon. That evening, Gerald found me in the library. I was sitting in my favorite chair, the one that faced the mountains, watching the sunset paint the peaks orange and gold. "You saw him," Gerald said. "Not a question. Yes. How do you feel?" "I do not know yet." He sat beside me, took my hand. We sat in silence as the light faded and stars began to appear. Gerald did not push. He understood that some things needed time to settle. My phone rang later that night. A number I did not recognize. I almost did not answer. Then something made me pick up. "Mom," Brandon's voice, broken, sobbing, screaming. "Mom, please, help me. I am dying. I have nowhere to go. I made a terrible mistake. Please." I held the phone away from my ear, Brandon's voice still audible even at a distance. Gerald watched me, his face carefully neutral. He would support whatever I decided. He had told me that when I first explained about Brandon, "Your past is yours to resolve however you need to." "Brandon," I said quietly, "slow down. Breathe." His crying continued, ragged and desperate. "Mom, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I saw you today. I saw your house. I saw what you became. I destroyed everything. Please, I need help. I am dying. Where are you?" "In my van. I have been sleeping in my van for 2 months. I got evicted." "Mom, I am sick, really sick. I need treatment, and I do not have insurance, and I cannot afford it, and I am going to die." The words tumbled out in a rush. I sat down heavily, feeling Gerald's hand on my shoulder. "What kind of sick?" "Kidney disease. Early stage," they said, "but it is getting worse. I need regular dialysis. I need medications I cannot afford. Mom, when I saw you today, when I realized what I did to you, what I threw away, I cannot breathe. I cannot think. Please. I do not deserve your help, but I am begging you. Please." I closed my eyes. The old instinct rose up, the one that had driven me for 35 years, the need to fix, to save, to sacrifice. But underneath it was something else, a memory of standing in my tiny kitchen, frosting a cake, hearing my son call me a loser. "I need time to think. Mom, I do not have time. They said if I do not start treatment soon, I could go into complete renal failure. I am already working reduced hours because I am too weak. I am going to lose even this job. Please. I know I do not deserve it. I know. But please, Brandon, I am going to hang up now. I will call you back in 3 days." That is my answer. 3 days? Mom, I might not have 3 days. Then you should have thought about that before you gave my money to Diane. Goodbye, Brandon. I ended the call. My hand shook. Gerald pulled me against his chest, and I breathed in the smell of sawdust and soap that always clung to him. "That was cruel," I whispered. "That was boundaries," he replied. "Do you believe he is sick?" "I do not know. I do not know anything anymore." The calls started the next morning, 5 calls before noon. I did not answer. Brandon left voicemails, each more desperate than the last. By evening, emails started arriving. Long, rambling messages about his regrets, his illness, his situation. One email described his medical condition in detail. Chronic kidney disease, stage 3, progressing. He included a photo of medical bills. The amounts were staggering, $40,000 already, and that was just the beginning. Without insurance, without treatment, he was looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical costs. Another email explained how he lost everything. The vacation home investment collapsed. The area where they bought property was hit by sudden zoning changes. The county decided to build a large industrial waste facility nearby. Property values plummeted overnight. Diane demanded her money back, the full $200,000 plus interest. Brandon and Stephanie could not pay. Diane sued them both. She won. They lost everything in the lawsuit. Bank accounts frozen, assets seized, credit destroyed. Stephanie left him 2 months after the lawsuit concluded. Brandon's email about that was short. She found someone wealthier. I do not blame her. I was a terrible husband because I was trying to be someone I was not. Someone Diane wanted me to be. On the second day, Brandon appeared at my gate. The security system alerted me. I watched on the monitor as he stood there, pressing the intercom button. I did not answer. After 20 minutes, Gerald went out. I watched on the camera as Gerald spoke to Brandon. I could not hear what they said, but I saw Brandon's shoulders shake. I saw him hand something to Gerald. Then he left. Gerald came back inside holding a letter. He wanted you to have this. I told him you would read it when you were ready. I also told him that showing up here uninvited would not help his case. I put the letter on my desk. I did not read it for 2 days. Patricia came over on the 3rd day. She brought lunch and her particular brand of tough love. We sat on my back patio, looking at the mountains. "Have you decided what to do?" she asked. "No. Part of me wants to help him. He is my son. He is sick. What kind of mother lets her child suffer? The kind who learned that helping someone who refuses to change only enables them. What does your gut tell you? My gut says he is genuinely desperate, but I do not know if he is genuinely changed." Patricia bit into her sandwich, chewed thoughtfully. "Here is what I know. You do not owe him anything. He made his choices. They had consequences. That is life. But I also know that you will not have peace unless you do what you believe is right. Not what is easy, not what is revenge. What is right according to your own moral compass? What would you do? I am not you, Harriet. I do not have a son. I have never stood where you are standing, but I will support whatever you choose. Even if I think it is a mistake, I will support you. That is what friends do. That night, I finally read Brandon's letter. It was handwritten, 10 pages long, the writing shaky and uneven. It started with apologies, page after page of them. He detailed every cruel thing he had done, every moment he betrayed me, every sacrifice of mine he had dismissed or mocked. He did not excuse himself. He did not blame Stephanie or Diane. He took full responsibility. The second half of the letter was different. He wrote about what happened after I left, how he felt when he found my letter and realized I knew about the vacation home, how he felt when Diane sued him and he understood he had been used, how Stephanie left and he was alone for the first time in years. Then he wrote about getting sick, how the diagnosis came just weeks after losing everything, how he sat in a free clinic, waiting for hours to see a doctor, and realized this was what my life had been like. Waiting, struggling, making do. He wrote, "I finally understood what you gave up for me. Not because you told me, but because I was living it. I understood what it feels like to work a job that destroys your body, to live in a place barely big enough to breathe, to count every dollar and still come up short. I understood. and the shame of what I did to you almost killed me before the disease could. The last page destroyed me. Mom, I am not asking you to save me. I am asking you for the chance to save myself. I do not know if I deserve it. I do not know if you can forgive me. But I finally understand that you were not toxic. You were tired. You were struggling. You were human, and I treated you like you were worthless. I will regret that until the day I die. Whether that day comes soon because of this disease, or later because you give me the gift of time, I will spend every moment I have left trying to become someone worthy of being your son. Not because I want your money, but because I want your respect. Even if I never get it, I want to deserve it. I sat with that letter for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and called Brandon. "Tomorrow," I said when he answered. "Come to my house tomorrow at 10 in the morning. We need to talk. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. You do not know what I am going to say." That night, I did something I had not done in 3 years. I looked up what happened to Diane. It took less than 10 minutes to find the news articles. Her financial empire was crumbling. Bad investments, over-leveraged properties, legal troubles stemming from fraudulent business practices. She was facing multiple lawsuits and possible criminal charges. Karma, I thought, is not always instant, but it is thorough. Brandon arrived at 9:45, 15 minutes early. I watched him on the security monitor, sitting in his van, his head bowed. At exactly 10, he got out and walked to the gate. He had changed clothes, not the uniform, jeans and a button-down shirt, both worn but clean. He looked like he had tried. I buzzed him through. Gerald stood beside me as Brandon walked up the path to our front door. My husband's presence was steady, grounding. We had agreed he would stay for this conversation. I needed a witness. I needed support. And Brandon needed to understand that I was not alone anymore. Brandon stopped when he saw Gerald. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Jealousy? Regret? Then it passed. "I am Brandon," he said quietly, extending his hand. Gerald shook it. "Gerald, I am Harriet's husband. Congratulations. I am glad she found someone." We went into the living room. Brandon's eyes traveled over everything: the high ceilings, the custom furniture, the art on the walls, some of which I had created myself. His gaze lingered on a photograph on the mantel. Me and Gerald on our wedding day. Patricia between us, all of us laughing. "Your home is beautiful," he said. "Thank you. I designed it. Sit down, Brandon." He sat on the edge of the sofa, like he was afraid to get comfortable. I sat across from him in a chair. Gerald remained standing, a quiet presence. "Before you say anything," I began, "I am going to talk. You are going to listen. When I am finished, then you can speak." "Understood. Yes. I know about the vacation home. I have known since the night of my birthday. I know you gave my money to Diane. I know you and Stephanie planned to get more from me if you could. I know all of it." Brandon flinched but said nothing. "I also know that Diane sued you. I know Stephanie left. I know about your diagnosis and your medical bills. I have been checking. When someone hurts you the way you hurt me, you learn to verify everything." I leaned forward. "I want you to answer a question, and I want the truth, Brandon. Not what you think I want to hear, the truth. Why did you treat me that way?" He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because I was ashamed of you." The words hit hard, but I did not flinch. "Continue." "When I married Stephanie, I entered a different world. Her family has money, real money, connections. They live in houses like this. They take vacations to Europe. They wear clothes that cost more than what you earned in a month. And I wanted to be part of that world. I wanted it so badly that I convinced myself you were the reason I did not already have it. Tears started sliding down his face. Stephanie and Diane, they did not have to work hard to turn me against you. They just had to point out what I already felt, that I was embarrassed by where I came from, by the sacrifices you made, because those sacrifices reminded me that I was not born into their world. I had to be lifted into it by a mother who cleaned toilets and waited tables. So you decided I was toxic, I said softly. Yes, if you were toxic, then I could justify cutting you off. If you were manipulative, then I did not owe you anything. If your sacrifices were actually weapons, then I was right to resent them. It was easier than admitting the truth, which was that I was a coward, that I valued the wrong things, that I betrayed the only person who ever loved me unconditionally because I wanted people like Diane to accept me. His voice broke. Mom, I do not expect you to forgive me. I do not expect you to help me. I just needed you to know that I finally see what I did, and I am so sorry. Gerald shifted slightly. I glanced at him. He gave a tiny nod. He believed Brandon was being honest. I did too. You can hear truth. It has a weight, a texture different from lies. Do you remember what you said to me? I asked. On my birthday, your exact words. You deserve nothing but my scraps. You are a loser. He closed his eyes. I remember. I will remember them until I die. Do you know what those words did to me? No. I mean, I can imagine. But I do not really know. How could I? They freed me. Brandon's eyes opened, confused. When you said those words, something broke inside me. But it was not my spirit, Brandon. It was the chains. The chains of believing my worth was tied to how you treated me. The chains of thinking I had to keep sacrificing forever. The chains of believing that a mother's love meant accepting abuse. Those words freed me to leave, to choose myself, to build this life. I gestured around the room. So in a twisted way, I should thank you. You hurt me so badly that I finally understood I had to save myself. Because you were never going to value me. Not then. Maybe not ever. I value you now, he whispered. Too late, but I do. Maybe. We will see. I took a breath. Brandon, I am going to make you an offer. But before I do, I need you to understand something. I did not get here by being rescued. I got here by working, by studying, by earning. And if you want my help, you are going to do the same. Anything. I will do anything. I will pay for your medical treatment. All of it. Whatever you need to manage your kidney disease, to stay healthy. But it is not a gift, and it is not charity. It is a loan. Every penny will be tracked. You will repay it. Hope flared in his eyes. But there are conditions. You will work for my company, starting at the bottom. Minimum wage, doing manual labor on our construction sites. You will work your way up through merit, not through being my son. You will attend therapy twice a week. That is non-negotiable. You will live in an apartment that the company owns. You will pay rent from your wages. You will have no special treatment, no shortcuts, no exceptions. Brandon stared at me. You are giving me a job. I am giving you an opportunity, not to go back to who you were, but to become someone new, someone who understands that value comes from character, not from bank accounts, someone who knows what it means to work hard for something real. The medical debt will be deducted from your future earnings over time. It might take you 20 years to pay it off, but you will pay it off. Why? The word came out broken. Why would you do this for me after what I did? Because you are right. I am your mother. And a mother's job is not to rescue her children from consequences. It is to teach them to stand up after falling. This is your chance to stand up, Brandon, to learn what I never had the chance to teach you because I was too busy surviving. I am teaching you now. Do you want to learn? He was crying openly now, his whole body shaking. Yes, yes. Thank you. I will not let you down. You already let me down. The question is whether you will let yourself down. This is not about me anymore, Brandon. This is about who you choose to be. Gerald spoke for the first time. I will be overseeing the construction sites. You will report to me. I will not go easy on you because you are Harriet's son. In fact, I will probably be harder on you. Can you handle that? Brandon nodded, wiping his face. Yes, sir. Good. Start Monday, 6 in the morning. Wear work boots and clothes you do not mind destroying. Bring a lunch. We do not stop for an hour at midday. Gerald's voice was gruff but not unkind. You will be tired. You will be sore. You will wonder if you can do it. The answer is yes, you can, if you choose to. Brandon stood, looked at both of us. Thank you, both of you. I will prove I can change. I promise. Do not promise, I said. Just do it. Promises from you do not mean much to me anymore. Actions will. After Brandon left, Gerald pulled me into his arms. I shook, the adrenaline finally hitting me. Did I do the right thing? I whispered. Time will tell, but you did what you believed was right. That is all any of us can do. 6 months passed like water over stone, slowly reshaping everything it touched. Brandon started on a Monday in November, when the Colorado mornings were dark and freezing. Gerald told me later that Brandon showed up at 5:45, 15 minutes early, his hands shaking from cold or nerves or both. They were working on a community center renovation in Colorado Springs, a project close to my heart. The building would serve low-income families, providing after-school programs and job training. The work was brutal. Brandon's job was the lowest on the site. Cleanup crew. He hauled debris, swept floors, carried materials to wherever they were needed. His body, soft from years of office work and then months of illness and poverty, screamed in protest. Gerald said Brandon could barely walk by the end of the first week, but he showed up every morning, 6 o'clock, work boots laced, lunch packed, ready. The medical treatment started the same week. I had arranged everything through a specialist in Denver. Dialysis 3 times a week. Medications delivered monthly. Dietary consultations. The bills came to me. I kept a detailed ledger, every treatment, every medication, every dollar. Brandon's debt to me grew with each passing week. 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. It would take him years, maybe decades, to repay at his current wage. I did not tell him the running total. That was not the point. The point was for him to understand that health, security, dignity, all of it had to be earned and maintained. Nothing was free. Everything had a cost. The apartment we provided was small, 500 square feet in a building we had renovated 2 years ago. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Clean lines, good light, functional space. But it was tiny, one room serving as bedroom and living area, a kitchenette, a bathroom. Rent was $700 a month, deducted from his paycheck. Brandon attended therapy twice a week. His therapist was a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen. No, wait, that is wrong. Dr. Sarah Martinez. A woman in her 50s who specialized in family trauma and behavioral change. I never asked what they discussed. That was between them. But I paid her bills, too, adding them to Brandon's account. Gerald reported to me every few weeks. Not to gossip, but to keep me informed. It was my company, my money funding this. I had a right to know. He is trying, Gerald said one night over dinner. Really trying. The other workers do not know he is your son. To them, he is just Brandon, the new guy who does the grunt work. Some of them have been giving him a hard time, testing him. He takes it without complaint. How is his health? Better. The treatments are working. He has gained weight. He looks stronger. I nodded, pushing food around my plate. I had not seen Brandon since that day in my living room. That was deliberate. I needed distance to protect myself, to make sure I was not falling into old patterns. "Do you want to see him?" Gerald asked gently. "Not yet, but I thought about him. Late at night, I wondered if I had done the right thing, if tough love was too tough, if I was punishing him or teaching him. The line between the two was thinner than I had imagined. 4 months into his job, something happened. Gerald came home with a strange look on his face. Brandon found a major problem with the Colorado Springs project today. What kind of problem? The electrical subcontractor made an error in the wiring plan, a serious one. If we had built according to their specifications, the building would have failed inspection. Worse, it could have been dangerous. Brandon was cleaning up in the electrical room and noticed something was off. He should not have been looking at the plans. That is not his job. But he did, and he was right. What did you do? I brought in the head electrician. We reviewed it. Brandon was correct. His catch saved us maybe $200,000 in rework and delays. More importantly, it saved the project. Those families need this center. Gerald sat down, rubbed his face. I asked him why he was looking at electrical plans when he was supposed to be cleaning. He said he downloaded some engineering textbooks to his phone. He has been studying at night, trying to understand how buildings work, trying to be useful beyond just hauling trash. Something loosened in my chest. He is learning. He is changing, Harriet. I did not want to believe it. I was ready for him to quit after a week, after a month. I kept waiting for him to complain or demand special treatment or revert to who he was. But he has not. He just works and studies and shows up. 2 weeks later, Gerald promoted Brandon, not to management, not to anything glamorous, to general labor. A tiny step up from cleanup crew. It came with a 50-cent raise per hour. Brandon's wage went from minimum wage to slightly above minimum wage. Gerald said Brandon cried when he got the news. 5 months in, I received a call from Dr. Martinez, Brandon's therapist, Mrs. Sullivan. "I am calling with your son's permission. He has something he wants to share with you." A letter he wrote in therapy. He asked if I would facilitate a joint session where he could read it to you. You can refuse, of course, but I think it might be meaningful. Why would it be meaningful? Because he has done the work. Real work, internal work. And I think you deserve to hear it. I agreed. More out of curiosity than hope, more out of a desire to see if this change was real. We met in Dr. Martinez's office on a Thursday evening. The room was comfortable, designed to feel safe. Brandon sat in a chair across from me. He looked different, still thin, but healthier. His eyes were clearer. He was wearing work clothes, his hands calloused and scarred from labor. "Doctor," Martinez explained the ground rules. Brandon would read his letter. I could respond or not. This was not a debate. This was simply sharing truth. Brandon pulled out several pages of handwritten notes. His hands trembled as he unfolded them. "Mom," he began, his voice unsteady. "I wrote this over the past month. Dr. Martinez helped me. She taught me that I need to own my actions without excuses. So, that is what this is. Ownership." He read. For 20 minutes, he read. He detailed every cruel thing he had done, every moment he betrayed me, Every time he chose Diane's approval over my dignity. Every sacrifice of mine he had mocked or dismissed. The list was long and painful. Then he moved to understanding. He explained what therapy had taught him, that he had been vulnerable to manipulation because he had built his identity on external validation, that Diane and Stephanie had exploited his insecurity about his modest upbringing, that he had participated willingly because their narrative was easier than admitting he was ashamed of himself, not of me. "I was not ashamed of you," he said, looking up from the pages. "I was ashamed that I needed you, that I could not make it on my own, that everything I had came from your sacrifice. So I rewrote history. I made you the villain so I could be the victim. It is a common pattern. Dr. Martinez showed me that. It does not excuse what I did, but it explains it." The last part of his letter destroyed me. He talked about the past 5 months, about learning to work with his hands, about the exhaustion that comes from physical labor, about understanding, finally, what my life had been like. "I work 40 hours a week, and I am exhausted. You worked 100 hours a week for years. I struggle to pay rent on a tiny apartment with my wages. You paid rent and saved money for me on those same wages. I receive medical care because you are paying for it. You went without care so you could pay for mine. I finally understand, Mom. Not intellectually, viscerally, in my bones and muscles and the ache that lives in my body now. I understand what you gave and what I threw away." He folded the pages. "I do not deserve your forgiveness. I will spend the rest of my life earning the right to be called your son. Not because I want something from you, but because I want to be someone worthy of you. That is all." Dr. Martinez looked at me. "Would you like to respond?" I was crying. I had not expected to cry. I had steeled myself against this moment, but the tears came anyway. "I am proud of you," I said. The words surprised me, but they were true. Not for your apology. Apologies are words. But for the work you have done, for showing up every day, for learning, for trying. That is what I always wanted for you, Brandon. Not money, not status, just the strength to show up for your own life. I am trying," he whispered. "Every day I am trying. I know, I see it." I wiped my eyes. "I forgive you, Brandon, but that does not mean I trust you yet. Trust is earned slowly. Can you accept that?" "Yes." "Good. Keep doing what you are doing. Keep showing up. Keep learning. We will see what happens." It was not a reconciliation, not yet, but it was a beginning. The following week, Diane appeared at the construction site. I was not there, but multiple people called me immediately. She showed up in a luxury car, wearing expensive clothes that could not hide her desperation. I learned later that her legal troubles had intensified. She was facing bankruptcy. She found Brandon hauling 2x4s and laughed, a cruel, mocking laugh that echoed across the site. Workers stopped to watch. "Look at you," she said loudly. "Brandon Sullivan, hauling wood like a common laborer. How the mighty have fallen. This is what happens when you turn your back on people who actually matter." Brandon set down the wood carefully. He walked over to Diane. Every worker on the site had gone quiet, watching. "Diane," he said calmly, "you taught me that worth is measured by money and status. You taught me that people like my mother, people who work with their hands and struggle and sacrifice, those people are beneath me. You taught me that family is defined by who can elevate you socially." He paused. "You taught me wrong. My mother taught me different lessons. She taught me through her life, through her sacrifices, that worth is measured by character. That real family is defined by who loves you when you have nothing to offer them. I did not listen for 35 years. I am listening now. Diane's face twisted. You are pathetic. Look at you. Look where you are. You could have had everything. I have everything I need. I have my health, thanks to my mother's generosity. I have work that means something. I am building a community center for families who need it. I have a chance to become someone I am proud of. That is everything. Your mother, Diane spat the words, your pathetic, worthless mother who spent her whole life as a doormat. Brandon's voice stayed level. My mother who put me through college while working 3 jobs. My mother who gave me $200,000 when I asked, no questions asked. My mother who, when I betrayed her in the worst possible way, offered me a path to redemption instead of revenge. You call her a doormat. I call her the strongest person I have ever known, and I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to be half the person she is. He turned to the site supervisor. I am sorry for the disruption. This woman needs to leave. The supervisor, a man named Tom, who had been with our company for years, stepped forward. Mom, this is private property. I am going to have to ask you to go. Diane looked around at all the workers staring at her. For the first time, she seemed to realize she had no power here, no leverage. She was just a woman facing bankruptcy, clinging to the ruins of a life built on false foundations. She left without another word. That evening, Tom called me personally. Mrs. Sullivan, I think you should know what happened today. He told me everything. When he finished, he said, I did not know Brandon was your son, but after today, I am proud to work with him. I sat in my office, looking at my designs for the next project, and I felt something I had not expected to feel. Hope. Real, genuine hope that my son might truly become someone new. 1 year after Brandon started working for my company, 4 years after the birthday that broke everything, we held a celebration. Our firm had won the National Award for Excellence in Affordable Housing Design. It was the highest honor in our field. The award ceremony would be in Chicago, but we decided to have a small gathering at our home first. Just the team, just the people who had built something meaningful together. Gerald and I spent the morning preparing. 50 people were coming. Architects, contractors, construction workers, community organizers, everyone who had contributed to our projects over the past year. Brandon would be there. It would be the first time he came to my home since that day. We offered him the job. Patricia arrived early to help. She set out food while I arranged flowers from my garden. Nervous? She asked. A little. Is that silly? Not at all. You have kept your distance for a year. Distance was healthy. But at some point, you have to decide if you are ready to close it. What if I am not ready? Then you keep the distance. Harriet, you do not owe him closeness just because he has been doing better. You get to decide what relationship you want with him, if any. He does his work, you do yours. People started arriving at noon, the house filled with laughter and conversation. These were my people now. Colleagues who respected the work, who understood that architecture could be an expression of justice. I moved through the crowd, greeting everyone, feeling grateful for this life I had built. Brandon arrived at 12:30. He came with a group of workers from the Colorado Springs project. He wore clean jeans and a button-down shirt, his work boots polished. He looked healthy. The treatments had stabilized his kidney function. His body had grown strong from months of physical labor. He was promoted again last month to assistant project coordinator. He earned it by designing a more efficient framing system that saved time and materials. Gerald had been impressed. Our eyes met across the room. He raised a hand in a small wave. I nodded. We maintained that distance, circulating separately through the party. Professional, polite. Not cold, but not familiar either. Gerald gave a speech thanking everyone. Then he surprised me by calling me to the front of the room. Our CEO, the brilliant architect who started all of this, Harriet Sullivan. I talked about the award, about what it meant. But mostly I talked about the team. We won this because we believed that everyone deserves beauty. That dignity is not a luxury. That good design is not reserved for people who can afford it. Every person in this room contributed to that vision. Thank you. Applause filled my home. I looked at all these faces, these people who had become my community, and felt complete. After the speeches, after the food, people began to leave. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, painting everything gold. Brandon approached me hesitantly. "Mom, do you have a minute?" "Of course." We walked out to the back patio, just the two of us. The mountains rose in the distance, snow-capped and eternal. We sat in the chairs Gerald had built, comfortable silence between us. "I want to give you something," Brandon said. He pulled out a small frame from his bag. "I found this in a storage unit I finally cleaned out. I thought you might want it." I took the frame. Inside was a photograph I had forgotten existed. Brandon, at 7 years old, gap-toothed smile, holding up a drawing he had made. Frank stood behind him, hand on his shoulder, both of them laughing. I was in the background, younger, my face unlined by grief, watching them with such love. "I did not forget," Brandon said quietly. "Even when I was at my worst, treating you terribly, somewhere inside I remembered this. I remembered who you were, who we were. I just chose to ignore it because facing it would mean admitting what I was throwing away." I touched the glass covering the photograph. "Thank you. I thought all these photos were lost. Most of them were. I found this one. I have been carrying it with me every day. A reminder of who I want to be, who I am trying to become. How are you doing? Really, good. Better than good. The work is hard, but I love it. I am learning so much. Not just about construction, but about myself. About what I am capable of when I stop looking for shortcuts." He paused. "I have been seeing someone. Dating, I mean. Her name is Jennifer. She is a teacher at an elementary school. She works with kids from low-income families. Kids who remind me of who I was before I forgot where I came from. What does she think of your situation?" I told her everything. About what I did to you. About losing everything. About trying to rebuild. She appreciates honesty. She said she respects that I am taking responsibility instead of making excuses. I would like to meet her someday. Hope flared in his eyes. "Really? If things get serious, yes." "Brandon, I need you to understand something. I have forgiven you, but our relationship will never be what it was. Too much happened. Trust, once shattered, does not fully repair. It becomes something else, something different. I understand. Mom, I do not expect us to go back. I do not want to go back. That version of me does not deserve you. I am trying to become a version that does. Then keep doing what you are doing. Keep showing up, keep learning, keep being honest. That is enough." We sat quietly for a while. Then Brandon said something that surprised me. "I have been volunteering on weekends at a homeless shelter downtown, teaching financial literacy classes, helping people understand budgeting, debt, how to rebuild credit. Most of the people there made mistakes, like I did. They just want a chance to start over. That is good work." It is. Some of them ask me why I am there. What qualifies me to teach financial literacy when I destroyed my own finances? I tell them the truth, that I am the perfect teacher because I know exactly how easy it is to lose everything, how fast it happens when you make bad choices. And I know that coming back is possible, but only if you face what you did and do the hard work of changing. I looked at my son, this man who had hurt me so deeply, this man who was trying, genuinely trying, to become better. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness. I had already given that. Something deeper, pride. I am proud of you. I said again, meaning it even more than the first time. Not for where you are now, but for the direction you are moving. That is what matters. Direction, not position. Thank you. His voice cracked. That means everything. Gerald came out to the patio. Sorry to interrupt. Patricia wants a photo of everyone before she leaves. We went back inside. The remaining guests gathered in the living room. Patricia arranged everyone, then called me to the center. The award winner in the middle, surrounded by her team. Brandon stood at the edge of the group. Before Patricia could take the photo, I called out, "Brandon, come here." I gestured to the space beside me. He hesitated, uncertain. I nodded. He stepped forward, stood next to me. Not touching, but close. Patricia took the photo. When I looked at it later, I saw what she captured. A room full of people who had built something meaningful together. And at the center, a mother and son with space still between them, but facing the same direction. After everyone left, Gerald and I cleaned up together. He washed dishes while I dried, our familiar rhythm. "You did good today," he said. Did I? I still do not know if I am doing the right thing with Brandon. You are doing an honest thing. That is better than right or wrong. You are treating him with fairness while protecting yourself. You are giving him room to change without expecting him to. That is all anyone can do. That night, I sat in my office, working on designs for our next project, a housing complex for veterans. We wanted to create spaces that honored their service while providing support for their challenges. It was complicated work, meaningful work. My phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. Just a photo. Him at the shelter, standing in front of a whiteboard covered with budget calculations, surrounded by people listening intently. The caption read, "Learning to give back. Thank you for showing me how." I thought about the past 4 years, about standing in a tiny kitchen, being called a loser, giving up everything and finding everything. I thought about second chances and what they actually mean. Second chances are not erasers. They do not wipe away what was. They are opportunities to build something new from the rubble of what was destroyed. They require both parties to change. The person who hurt must learn accountability. The person who was hurt must learn boundaries. I had spent 65 years believing love meant sacrifice, that a mother's job was to give endlessly, to absorb pain, to put her children first always. I learned different. I learned that love also requires boundaries. That teaching someone consequences is an act of love, perhaps the deepest kind. That letting someone fall so they can learn to stand is not abandonment. It is wisdom. My son gave his mother-in-law my life savings and called me a loser. He threw away the one person who truly loved him, chasing approval from people who only wanted to use him. And I disappeared. I vanished from his life completely. In that disappearance, I found myself. I rediscovered the woman I had been before life demanded she shrink. I built a career, a home, a life that reflected my values instead of my circumstances. When Brandon found me again, desperate and broken, I could have turned him away. Many people told me I should, that I owed him nothing. They were right. I owed him nothing. But I gave him something anyway. Not rescue, not forgiveness without cost. I gave him opportunity, the chance to learn what I learned. That you build worth through work, character through choices, respect through consistency. I made him earn every step. I refused to save him from consequences. Instead, I taught him to save himself. Some people might call that cruel. I call it love. Real love. The kind that sees someone drowning and throws them a rope instead of jumping in and drowning alongside them. The kind that says, I will help you, but you have to do the swimming. 4 years after that terrible birthday, I stood in my home surrounded by people I respected, doing work that mattered, married to a man who cherished me. My son was there too, not as the entitled boy who betrayed me, but as a man learning to rebuild. We were not close. We might never be close, but we were honest. And in that honesty, I found peace. The greatest gift you can give someone is not money or rescue or even forgiveness. It is the gift of their own potential realized. When you let someone fail, when you refuse to catch them every time they fall, when you set boundaries and enforce consequences, you give them the chance to discover their own strength. Brandon lost me and realized what he lost. He lost everything and learned what truly mattered. He hit bottom and discovered he could climb back up. Not because I saved him, because I refused to, because I believed he was capable of saving himself, even when he did not believe it. That is what a mother's love should be. Not endless sacrifice that teaches dependency, but fierce boundaries that teach strength. Not rescue from every pain, but presence through the journey of growth. I look at the life I have now, and I am grateful. Grateful for the pain that pushed me to change. Grateful for the betrayal that freed me. Grateful for the distance that let me heal. And grateful for the chance to teach my son what I could not teach him before. That his worth is not measured by what others think of him, or how much money he has, or who accepts him into their world. His worth, like all our worth, is measured by who he becomes when no one is watching. By the choices he makes when they are hard, by his willingness to show up, do the work, and keep trying even when he fails. That lesson took me 65 years to learn. I am glad he learned it at 38. He has time now. Time to build a life based on substance instead of appearance. Time to become someone his children, if he has them, will be proud to know. And I have time too. Time to enjoy this life I built. Time to create beauty. Time to teach others. Time to love and be loved in ways that honor who I am instead of diminishing me. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is disappear. Let someone lose you. Let them feel that loss deeply. And if they are capable of growth, if they are willing to do the hard work of change, maybe, just maybe, you can find a new way forward together. Not as you were, but as you are both becoming. That is enough. That is everything. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love, even when it felt impossibly hard? Have you learned that sometimes loving someone means letting them face the consequences of their choices? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who is struggling with similar decisions. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories about resilience, family, and finding yourself again. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it is never too late to rebuild, that second chances are real, but they require real work. And remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you. It is determined by how you treat yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. May you find the courage to set boundaries, the strength to rebuild, and the wisdom to know that sometimes love means letting go so both of you can grow.